how's everybody doing this evening? Everybody doing great? That's what's up. Okay, we're about to do this on, here we go, Facebook Live. Beautiful thing. All right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the launching of Black Global Unit, these dating streets. And we're going to come to you, giving you guys some information while y'all out there in those dating streets trying to make it happen. And you might be pretty impressed with what we're going to be bringing to you this evening. Anyway, my name is Kerry Neal. I am the host and moderator of this fantastic platform. And I'm joined by these two absolutely stunning women. We got Dr. Carla Michelle and Dr. Zanita Kelly. Dr. Kelly, Dr. Carla Michelle, say what's up to the people.
How you doing, everybody?
Hey, everybody.
Like a nice little intimate setting, like we're in the living room.
Yeah, right. Now, we recognize that some of you guys may have things that are going on that where you can't have your camera on, but we like to simulate an in-person experience where we would love to see your face. If you can't, that's fine too. We'll be letting others join on. We want to welcome everybody that's on Facebook as well. Beautiful thing. And we'll be taking questions. And again, we'll be talking about, we'll talk about our topic in just a second. But what we want to do, again, we want to have a similar in-person experience. So we want you to ask questions. You can raise your hand. You can put something in the chat. You can say, hey, I got a question. I want to give a commentary, whatever it all goes. But we all trying to learn in these dating streets. Where, what's the hashtag, Zanita?
We out here.
We out here, that's what's up. Okay, what we're gonna do, we're not gonna spend a lot of time talking about the formalities and things like that, but we do want to give you an idea of who we are and what this is all about. Now, some of you guys may recognize me from Keep It 100 LA. I'm still a part of the organization. This is a passion project of mine that we're launching, and I'm so glad that you're here to join me for it, and we can't wait till others can join us as well. So what is Black Global Unit? Black Global Unit is an enterprise committed to building relationship excellence and personal growth through creativity in the Black community and beyond. And one of the functions of Black Global Unit is what we're on right now, this platform called These Dating Streets, which is simply a platform to explore trends that drive relationship success and what hinders it. And that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. What's hindering relationship success? Okay, so before we dive in, a couple of things we want to just let you guys know. First of all, this is being brought to you courtesy. Our sponsor for tonight is Carla Michelle Coaching and Consulting. So we want to thank Dr. Carla Michelle for all the support to make this happen this evening. So thank you, Dr. Carla Michelle. You're so generous. So here's another thing too. Now, let me say, these are some exceptional women, right? They are professional. They have a lot of experience, and we'll talk about their credentials in a second. But one thing we want to make very clear, that just because they have an excellent grasp on the topic, it doesn't mean they haven't had struggles in this area and maybe even still have struggles, right? So they can identify whatever that you might be going through regarding the topic that we're about to dive into, okay? So just know that we're all on this journey of healing at some point. Some of us a little bit further along than others, but we all still trying to get there. Is that all right?
Absolutely. Okay. All right, Carrie.
Okay, that's what's up. First of all, so now let me just introduce to everyone on Facebook Live and here on Zoom, who we have that will be guiding our discussion this evening. First of all, Dr. Zanita Kelly, who's an educator, social activist, and inspirational speaker, and you'll hear some inspiration in just a few minutes, right? So, so she holds her Doctor of Education, her EDD, in organizational leadership from Pepperdine University Graduate School of Education and Psychology. Okay. She also has an advanced certification in education and organizational leadership from the University of Illinois, Champaign-Urbana. Okay. And then, you know, when she started her educational journey, she started off, she got her Bachelor's of Science, again, from the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign. And then she followed that up with her Master's in Education and Curriculum and Instruction from National Louis University. Dr. Kelly, say something to the people. Say what's up to the people.
How's everybody doing tonight?
That's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, so then we're going to go to Dr. Carla Michelle, who is the CEO of Dr. Carla Inc. Coaching and Consulting, and just happens to be our sponsor for the evening. She is a business and life coach, as well as a mental health expert. She holds a PhD in business psychology from the Chicago School of Professional Psychology. And she also holds a master's in marriage family therapy with a specialization in African-American family therapy from Pacific Oaks College in nearby Pasadena, California. Dr. Carla Michelle, say what's up to the people.
Hello, everybody. Glad to have this time with you this evening.
Now, before we come down to discussion, Dr. Carla Michelle, you have this amazing retreat that's supposed to be coming up pretty soon. You want to talk a little bit about it before we dive in? Just give the people
It'd be an honor. It'd be an honor. Well, I have a couple of things. One thing I have on April 24th is a boot camp, and it's a mind reset boot camp, and it's an opportunity to get some on-the-spot coaching for you who do not like to go into an office, or maybe not, well, it's going to be virtual, but you never worked with a coach before and you're curious. This is your time, and I will share the link in the chat, but this is your time to get that virtual to virtual coaching to help you get through those things that may be holding you back, to help you see life a little differently, to help see yourself a little differently, or situations. And this is come with job interest, or not job interest, job issues, promotional issues. I call it gaslighting, promotional gaslighting. When they promise you all this stuff and they don't deliver. We talk how to get through that. Whatever you're going through, bring it. And we'll give you some time on that. April 24th, it's at 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and it is on Zoom, and that's a Sunday. So you should have time for yourself to, do that self-care Sunday with me on the 24th, and then July 15th through the 17th, I'm hosting Bold and Beautiful. And that is our wellness retreat, our wellness getaway in Temecula, California. And we got some good stuff happening there. We got a personal chef coming in. We've got some sound baths and massages happening, and as well as some more time for you to work on yourself, to work on your boldness, what's holding you back, how to see yourself in a different light when it comes to the areas that you need, finding harmony mentally, spiritually, financially, and socially. I could go on, but I'm going to stop there. So July 15th through the 17th, Temecula, California. I am your host, and it's all inclusive. I'll send you the link so you can get on board.
Okay. Is there a fee associated with that? Is it free,
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
How much is it?
For the coaching, April 24th, that is $97. If you bring someone, you get a discount. And if you want like a VIP, you can get that. And then you can also get a coaching hour session with me one-on-one. So there's 3, and I'll put that link. It's on Eventbrite. It's called Mind Reset Bootcamp. And then the Bold and Beautiful, it is right now, it's a little under 2,000, and that's for 3 days, all inclusive, all your food, all the massage, all that stuff is all going to happen for you.
Okay, now is it just all ladies, or what is it? What is it?
Well, yes, because yes, what we're going to do is just all ladies.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Sure,
Just what?
to be there, but
Just like that. Yes, because yes.
Well, let me tell you something. You guys are going to run. And make sure you register for a conference. Look, it's only $97. You're gonna pay more for that than fill up your car with gas. Oh my God, it's like about $150, please. This is a discount, so you need to hook that up. So thank you, Dr. Carla Michelle.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So we're gonna dive right in. You know what we're talking about, you guys? We're talking about triggers. You guys know anything about triggers? Anybody? Darla, you know anything about triggers?
I do.
Do you? Okay, cool. Brooke Wade, what's up? You know anything about triggers? She's like, okay, Carrie put me on the spot. So.
Right, it's Brooke in the
No,
house.
that's not a problem. I'm actually cooking and enjoying and being a fly on the wall. And yes, sir, I do know a lot about triggers. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, what we're gonna do is we're gonna have a working definition that I got from of all places, the most reliable source there is on the internet, called Wikipedia. And we're going to see what they had to say about what a trigger is, okay? And then we're going to ask our panelists to dive in and give their view of it as well. Okay, so triggers or emotional trigger, this is what it says. A trauma trigger or emotional trigger is a psychological stimulus that promotes involuntary recall of a previous traumatic experience. The stimulus itself need not be frightening or traumatic and may only be indirectly or superficially reminiscent of an earlier traumatic incident, such as a scent or a piece of clothing. Very interesting. Kind of deep, huh? Dr. Zanita Kelly, what do you think about that?
I think that one of the things that I've understood and learned about triggers is that when you are experiencing one, it is as if you are reliving. You get all the emotional and visceral responses of going through whatever the initial trauma was. When you're triggered later in life, and it doesn't matter how much later you experience whatever you are associating as that triggering event, it's like reliving it. So you're getting the same physical sensations, all of that, the same emotional sensations as if you're reliving that original trigger, which is why or that original trauma. And it's why it's so important that we understand what these things are in us and how to at least be able to understand what's coming up for us when we are not in any real physical danger any longer, but there is something that's happening in our environment that's evoking or eliciting this response. So that's what I think about it initially.
Yeah, that's pretty deep because you said reliving. This is interesting. So you mean to tell me, let's say if a woman was in this relationship with this guy named John, and John was abusive, and maybe John always before the abusive, before he started the abuse, he said baby, and then the abuse would ensue, right? So then you break off the relationship with John, but then you go on to the next guy, and maybe he's about to be very endearing to you, and he says baby, and all of a sudden there's an actual emotional response in you, physiological response in you, as if she was right back with the old John. Is that what you're saying?
In essence, yeah. I mean, these things are complicated, they're layered. And so I'm certain that, especially in an abusive situation, that baby probably came with so many other sensory inputs that where you start to know, because when we're in danger, when we're threatened, we start to get hyper vigilant. And, my lens, because, I'm an educator working with children. So children that come from abusive households are hyper vigilant. They are scanning the room and they are looking for danger. They're just hardwired for it. So when you've endured an abusive situation, it's not just going to be that word. It's going to be the way you walked in the room. It's going to be the way you put your coat down. It can be, a furrow of a brow that starts to make you feel like something is getting ready to go down. But in essence, what you boil it down to in the simplest form, sure.
Interesting. Dr. Carla Michelle, you want to give a perspective on that as well?
Well, I can only add to the great stuff that's already been shared. But when I think about triggers and moving forward, it's so important because I'm going to grab some pillows here, because I think like we walk around, excuse my pillows, but we walk around like this, right? You can't see me because I got all these triggers. You don't even get to see the real me. And that's how I look at it. It's like we're walking around and nobody really sees us, but they see what we've been through. And I think it's important. It's important that we do what it takes to heal and to remove all these barriers. Like Dr. Zanita was saying, when the kid is hypervigilant and they're walking, they can't even enjoy the space.
Mm-hmm.
Because they've got all these things that are, alerting them, danger, and they can't live. So it's time to move past that.
Amen. Wow. Thank God I don't look like what I've been through. I take a testimony moment and say, thank God I don't look like what I've been through.
Wow, that's interesting. So, but wait a minute, hold up, wait for a second. Okay, so the name of this show is called These Dating Streets, but we just talked about triggers. Dr. Carla Michelle, What does one have to do with the other? We're talking about dating. Why are we talking about triggers? What do they have to do with it?
Well, the thing about dating is if someone's been dating for a while, divorced and now dating, wherever you are in the dating scene, we carry these things and we want a whole relationship, but yet we carry these things that have made us hyper vigilant, and we are blocking the good relationships, because sometimes what we do is attract what we don't want, because we have not, well, not sometimes, most of the time, because we haven't dealt with that past. And so dating, and you want to have a good one, you got to get rid of those triggers. My daughter was here with her boyfriend a little earlier, and I said, do you ever consider writing down what triggers you and then sharing it with each other? Because that helps. How do you really say you know someone if you really don't know their triggers?
Interesting. Zanita, add a little bit to that. That's interesting.
Well, I'm going to say that when you were reading my bio, what I could add to that is I'm an expert in how to date badly. So I've had enough experience to probably have earned a PhD in that.
Wow.
Yeah, so there you have it. And I honestly feel that when you have made the mistakes, when you have fallen in the traps, and when you have made a decision that I don't want to do this anymore, and then you start to do the work to unpack what's happening and what have I associated with these type of people, et cetera. And you get to start to heal from your stuff. And then you can start making different choices. You can choose differently. You can be aware. So what is important with what Carla was saying is that sharing that information with another person so that you try, I'm assuming, try to avoid triggering one another. You might first have to sit back and say, I need to understand myself better. Before I can even name and have the language around it and understand it, I need to take myself off the market maybe, or just step back for a moment and say, I need to explore myself. I need to go through this journey so I can figure out what's going on with me and understand what triggers me and what trauma I've had and how to unpack all of that. Because as Ian Tatum is on this call, I believe he always said that fractured adults cannot create whole children. And I would move a little bit further with that and say fractured adults can create a whole relationship. So you do have to work on yourself, get yourself together so that you're able to participate fully and wholly in a relationship.
Oh, I love that. Love that. We got a hand raised already. We've got Brooke Wade who wants to chime in. Brooke Wade, go ahead, talk to the people.
Well, yeah, I think that that was sound advice to write down your triggers and share that with someone you're entering into a relationship with. However, I've used that method. I've been my whole self and showed up as my authentic self in a sense, and shared my emotional triggers in ways that I can be emotionally unavailable in the past. But you have to also then walk into that with the assumption that someone is showing up as their authentic self as well. And a lot of times they're not. A lot of times in dating, we are showing up as our representatives and we either mock or not necessarily mock, but mimic what you believe the other person is wanting to hear. And you may be the one that is being fully vulnerable and sharing your triggers, and that person is enjoying being the representative and essentially the quote unquote savior of the situation until the rubber meets the road and their triggers are revealed in real life situations. So I would just throw out there that even if you run into that situation, never shy away from showing up as your authentic self, because one day you may meet that individual that shows up as their authentic selves as well.
Yeah, I so agree. I'm sorry, Carrie, you probably about to say something.
No, you're good. You're good.
Yeah. I was just saying that when what I have learned from the school that I went to of bad dating decisions is that when you don't show up as your authentic self, that person that you're dating is going to be involved with someone that truly is not you, and it's not sustainable. They fall in love with your representative, and then when you actually and authentically start to show up, you've changed. this isn't how you used to be. This is, and now it's a problem. And the problem is now I'm being me and have never allowed that person to get to know me because I was so busy, blocking them from that real information. Wow,
they say like, I really, really loved you when you didn't have any boundaries. Now you got all this self-respect going on. This is kind of different for me.
Yeah, Angela in the chat, thank you. Please feel free to unmute yourself too to talk, but she says it sounds like allowing yourself to be vulnerable. And that is one of the scariest things. It's so easy to say, and it's so true. It is so true, but vulnerability can be really scary. And maybe that too, for me, is a trigger when I have to be vulnerable.
Yeah, and I can imagine I can be, I think most of our experiences have been when we let our guards down, we let people in, we get hurt. And sometimes we get hurt over and over again. And, obviously a lot of times it may be because someone's taking advantage and maybe there's some things that we're not doing right. I kind of want to stay on the whole triggers thing in terms of what it is. And I really want people to really understand what that is. When we start this whole show this evening, one thing we talked about is, although you guys have a fairly great grasp and you're experts on the subject matter, it doesn't mean that you haven't experienced anything on your own. So Dr. Carla Michelle, I don't know, we don't want to be too intrusive, but is there something that maybe you have experienced in times past where you were triggered and you kind of had to work through those things and so forth? Just to give those listening an idea of, to really put a final point on what a trigger is and make a distinction between that and whatever else. So,
for me, I made a lot of subconscious contracts with myself after I was married and divorced of what I wouldn't do, and realized how much I said what I wouldn't do hindered me from my research. And I called dating research at the time, because I wasn't trying to research men as much as I was trying to research who I was and what I really wanted. So some of there was many times, I'm not gonna lie, I would be crying because that word vulnerability and being open and being me triggered. The vulnerability triggered because when I was married, I felt like I was very vulnerable and very open and never wanted to do that again. But yet I knew I couldn't go past where I was if I wasn't vulnerable. So vulnerability, I didn't want to fall in love. I learned how to play the game, 3 dates and I'm out. If it don't work, you get the chance, the second, I'm about to make a decision, and the third, either we're going on or we're not going to see each other. And, that's pretty cold hearted. I would say I took on a guy's way. No insult to guys, but those were the things that, I couldn't be vulnerable. That was a trigger for me, to be asked to show my heart and show who I was. But then when the guys would, kind of give me a definition of who I was, I didn't like the definition, even though it was true. That's how I was acting, but hard, standoffish, and I didn't want that. But that's who I had chose to be because of my fears of being hurt again. So fear of the past being repeated was a trigger.
Wow, very interesting. First of all, again, we want to encourage you guys to please participate, ask questions, raise your hand, just jump in. Facebook Live, you can't really talk, but you can certainly put a comment in ask a question or give a comment in the box, whatever else, and we'll get to it and we'll try to answer a question, whatever the case may be. So Dr. Zanita Kelly, you've been very eloquent thus far with this. Is there experience or something you like to share that's not too intrusive, but really puts a final point again of what a trigger is so we can really understand what we're talking about here?
Well, I will say that I just kind of vibe really off of what Carla was just saying about this idea of vulnerability. And I was taught not to be vulnerable. Vulnerable was a sign of weakness. And so that you would always be able to walk away. Like you never let yourself be so vulnerable and so in love with someone that you can't leave if you need to. Like so I always felt this need to save something for myself because vulnerability is weakness. And I think triggers, period, is trauma. That's all it is. It's rooted in our experiences where our body is telling us we're in danger. And so we need to protect ourselves. And we are hypervigilant for danger because we are wired for survival. We want to survive. We want to be happy. We want to have some sense of protection and efficacy out there in the world. And being vulnerable with another human means that there could be a possibility of danger. So triggers are just deeply rooted in our trauma, and understanding what our trauma is and not blaming ourselves for it, but and examining it. And that's how we start that journey that you were talking about initially of healing from it. So, I just have a lot of stories. I could go on.
I'm sure. And we want to still hear some more of those things. One thing I thought about too, you guys, before we even dive onto this platform, and I talk among the panelists, and we kind of talk about some of the questions that we want to ask and things of that nature, right? I like what you said, Zanita, when you talked about how you were taught not to be vulnerable. And I want to kind of go somewhere that's a little controversial, but let's just kind of go there and just kind of tackle it. So this whole idea of Black girl magic, which is supposed to be, this whole empowerment movement of Black women coming into their own and things like that. A lot of times it's characterized by a lot of material success or personal success. Could be in corporate America, the acquisition of, possessions, make a lot of money and things like that. I'm just curious, what are your thoughts about that? With this being such a huge movement, is this a real thing that's sort of independent from any kind of traumatic experience that maybe I've had all these bad situations with men and so forth, I'm just going to be self-empowered? Or is this a legitimate effort to just celebrate women who are just doing extraordinary things and they're not having their time in the spotlight? What are your thoughts on that? Dr. Carla Michelle, talk of that. And particularly you, Dr. Carla Michelle, because you have clients. You have clients that you deal with who are successful women, right? And talk to us about that. What are your thoughts on that?
I thought the question was pointed at Zanita, so I was ready for her response, and then you
we'll get back to Dr. Zanita Kelly. It's all good.
Oh my gosh. Okay, Black girl magic. And so, seriously, I really thought you were asking Zanita, so I wasn't ready to respond to that. So I was kind of like springboarding off what she said. So okay.
That's what I was doing. But we'll get there. We'll get back.
Yeah, tell me, please. So when you're talking about Black girl magic, when it comes to being triggered, I missed that connection. So could you repeat that?
So what we're saying, what I was doing, I was bouncing off of what Dr. Zanita Kelly was saying.
Okay.
About being not being vulnerable.
Okay.
And hold on, we want to just clarify something. Could both you, Dr. Kelly, and Dr. Carla Michelle, could you define the word vulnerability just for the sake of our audience so we understand what vulnerability is? Let's start with you, Dr. Carla Michelle, and go to Zanita, then we'll go back to you, Dr. Carla Michelle, to answer the question. So.
Okay, got it. Zanita put something in there. All righty. But I want to say, I won't say across the board we're all going to have the same definition of vulnerability, because I think we're all at different places in life. So in general, vulnerability is moving past yourself that would try to block your being very open and very you. And that vulnerability is, how do you love, the way you love, and owning it, and how you feel and owning it, what you're disappointing in and owning it. So vulnerability is just who is you? Who is you, and let it out there, and not trying to be someone you've seen or someone you're trying to, not being your mother or your sister or something that you've seen on social media, but truly being you and learning from being you. That's how I would define vulnerability.
Okay, cool. So Dr. Zanita Kelly, please.
Yeah, it is exposing yourself to the possibility of being hurt. And that's either physical or emotional hurt or pain. So anything that we have grown up and associated with a painful experience, opening ourselves up to the possibility of that happening. It's trust. It's also you're showing up authentically and genuinely yourself without the mask, without the pretense. That's vulnerability. Because if that is rejected, that is a painful experience. When I am showing you my heart and I am showing you all that I am and all that I have, authentically, and you chop that down, you reject it, or it's disregarded in some way, that is an exposure to the potential pain. And I mean, how many of us have been in relationship, and it doesn't necessarily have to be romantic, just in relationship with someone we care about, and we have exposed ourselves and they mishandled us. They mismanaged us and did not treat us with the care and concern. I mean, that is scarring. It's transformative kind of pain. And opening yourself up to that kind of pain, the kind of pain that will change your personality, that will change your disposition and your outlook, is huge. So yeah, you're triggered when you think, nope, I'm not doing this.
You know, that's interesting too, because, you know, many of us, you know, we want love. We want to experience love. We really want the full essence of love. And it's interesting, we think we're going to achieve that with a wall up. Or as Dr. Carla Michelle showed us, have these pills up that you never, you know, you want the love and so forth, and wherever else you try to do all these things, but the wall is up. And you want love, but you don't want to be hurt again. Oh my God, I don't want to go down that road again. Very difficult. Dr. Carla Michelle, talk to us. You got clients and things like that. Obviously, don't say a client's name, but maybe there's some scenarios and some interesting experiences that you think might be beneficial for our audience here and so forth. Please do indulge.
Yes, thank you, Carrie. I do want to say it doesn't matter the age, you know, you could be in your teens, 20s, 30s, wherever, and all the way up 60, 70-year-old, 80-year-old, and you will have some triggers. And some of those that I've seen, I won't just narrow it down to my clients in case, you know, but I will open it up in a way. But that's, you know, being played, that's a trigger, you know. I've seen that. I've seen the way someone handles their phone is a trigger. You know, if the guy or the girl, you know, the way they put that phone down, you know, it's flipped down, that's a trigger.
Why's your phone turned over? Why's your phone turned over? Why is it on silent?
It's just noted. It's just noted. You ain't got to say nothing about it. It's just noted that phone is turned over. I know what that means.
We never see, or you know, you never see the phone come out. You know, that's a trigger. Different things like that, or the ins and outs of exes. And in a new relationship, what does the ex play? If there's photos, you know, still in the phone, or there's photos still in the house, and those have been triggers. I'm trying to think of all the triggers I've heard. So they're everywhere. It doesn't matter how much money you make, the salary, but there's triggers. There's feeling manipulated. That's a trigger. You know, you can even trigger someone. This is an interesting way I'm going to turn it around if I say it right. You could be triggered by someone who acts weak and defeated because it's something, right? You're like, no,
help me understand that one.
Well, because if you've had to show up, a lot of kids have been parentified, and you get in a relationship and this person is weak and defeated all the time, that could be a trigger for you, because you have to act like the parent again, and it can cause some tension. I've dealt with that. So you just never know. I mean, triggers are personal almost. It is really, it's based on
as unique as our traumas.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's so interesting you said that, because I remember I was really little, 3-4 years old when my parents divorced, and they had a very big public scene at a train station, and I was very young. And I remember as my father was leaving, he was getting on a train. My mother was arguing with him and essentially pleading for him to stay. And then he left. And I remember us sitting outside the train station and my mother crying. And I remember holding her face and wiping her tears and telling her it's going to be okay. Now let's fast forward to me being in a marriage where there is a man having a weak moment because we're going through something really hard and he's crying. And I'm right there. And I'm like, no. At that moment, I shut down. No, I'm not wiping your tears. No. You crying these punk ass tears? No.
Right?
Wow.
Trigger.
Wow.
Trigger.
Wow. You know, Ian was just saying something very interesting. He talked about how vulnerability can actually be a superpower. Ian, you want to talk a little bit about that really quick for the audience? So that was pretty powerful. Some great insight.
Yeah, sure. Hey, how y'all doing? I had to really learn that vulnerability is not about you being less than. In our culture, especially with Black men, like, you know, you're not punk, wipe your tears, what's wrong with you, don't cry, don't do this.
Look, the essence of being a Black man is not being a punk. That's what that's all about.
Right. And
being Black man is not to be a punk.
Yeah, but what I'll also say is with that programming,
right,
what happens in that is that there are many grown men whose growth has been stunted because you've been told not to be an emotional sentient being. When actually, guess what? We are emotional beings. And somewhere along the line, somebody needs to give those who have held it in permission to let it go.
Yeah.
And so you have to allow yourself that, because I was groomed in that way. Like my dad would punch me straight in the chest. Nigga, don't cry. Boom. And I'm like, well, I'm 4. Like, shouldn't I cry at 4? Like,
4.
I mean,
that like, talking about you're a teenager, you're 4.
Like, don't 4-year-olds cry? Like, you know, I mean, and so what that programming taught me is that this is how I need to be and exist in the world. And if I do anything outside of that programming, it means that I'm not good enough and that somehow I'm imperfect and I'm not living up to the expectation that I was taught.
Yes. I mean,
and also,
go ahead, keep going.
Well, I just want to say really quickly about my own understanding about triggers. And here's how I see triggers, and then I'll shut up. I see triggers as like emotional reactions to current behavior that can remind you of something painful in the past. And so your emotional reactions are not always about your partner. It is about that takes you back to your childhood.
Yes.
It's those traumatic moments when you realize like, oh, this is when I was dropped. This is when I was mishandled. This is when I wasn't cared for. It is your pathology. You also have to recognize that many times you are listening and experiencing things through the lens of your trauma.
Yes.
And as you experience the things through the lens of your trauma, if you haven't had somebody tell you that, it's unfortunate because there's so many of us who live our lives where at the point where our growth was stunted. There's plenty of adults who are 40, 50, who still have the mentality and the behavior of the 16-year-old.
Yeah.
Because they never grew up and I shouldn't even say grow up, that's not fair. They never had an opportunity to exercise their pain and to exercise their trauma. And then the other thing about those of us, and I said I'll be quiet, this is the last thing.
No, keep going.
No, you good.
Yeah. It's okay. You add value.
With those of us who have done the work and we've gone through the path of healing and interrupted those patterns of behavior that we recognize no longer serve us or serve the person that we want to attract, you then have to listen to the words of Nina Simone, and they are this. You have to learn to get up from the table when love is no longer being served. Don't put yourself through it.
I like that.
Absolutely.
You know, what was also powerful what he said as well was when he talked about how we see things through the eyes of trauma. And, you know, it was interesting. I grew up in St. Louis, North St. Louis, the very challenged, urbanized side of the city. And single parent home. Mom had 4 kids. I was the youngest. She was like 24 years old with 4 kids, right? I'm the youngest. And I remember growing up, I mean, we were talking about scarcity. And I may have mentioned this to Zanita before, how my mother one time told us with a sense of pride. She said, we not poor, we poor. We can't afford the OR. I mean, that was like a real existence, right? Barely having enough food and things like that. So it was interesting as I got older, I had my own children. And when they said that they were hungry, now I'll talk about seeing life through the lens of trauma. It was like that little starving Carrie way back in the day was like putting on his Superman cape. Don't worry, I'm going to come to the rescue and feed you. It could just be the time of the day they were hungry, but I heard hungry very different. And I was overfeeding my kids, thinking I was doing something heroic, and they didn't get it. And at some point, I had to wake the hell up. And I'm telling you, just like that little boy in me was feeding my kids all that food, thinking I was helping them out and saving the day, it is very possible that a lot of you guys on here are dating and looking at men or looking at women through some kind of traumatic experience. You don't even know it. But you know something? These dating streets, we out here. We're about to give you guys some information to help pivot and set you guys on the right path, right? So really quick, right, for both you guys, right? Dr. Carla, Michelle, okay. Try to make a distinction between an emotional trigger and maybe just legitimately not liking something. How can you, the juxtaposition of a trigger, which is tied to trauma, or something that may be legitimate, you just don't feel comfortable, and it really has anything to do with trauma. How can you tell the difference? Dr. Carla, please.
I think it's very important to be able to tell the difference too, but the way that you can see if it's emotional, if you kind of just in that moment, or if you can't at that moment, then when it happens or after it happens, go back and trace it and really think about it. Well, I will say this, if you're uncomfortable, your body knows you're uncomfortable, and listen to that. I mean, it's different in a trigger, because a trigger, you're going to react. Where if you're uncomfortable, there's a different response. And I think you have to listen to that small, still voice, that intuition, God, the Holy Spirit, whatever. You need to listen when you're uncomfortable about something's not working. And especially in the dating scene, things can trigger you, but you've got to also know if something just is not a fit, and you have to be okay and separate yourself from that. But also do your work. Back it up and see, where is it initiating from? Is it really something that they gave a vibe that you just can't deal with? Or is it something that in your past is coming in? And because triggers don't like to lose their control over your life. So they will show up when they feel threatened. So you got to just make sure which one is speaking.
Okay, so Dr. Kelly, please.
Yeah, I think it becomes pathological when you are not thriving. So to know the difference between what is just my preference and things that are making me uncomfortable and something that's deeply rooted in trauma, it's going to be, how is your life working? Are you happy? Are you okay with the way things are going? Do you feel comfortable? Do you feel fulfilled? Because outside of that comes the pathology. Like, man, I've been married 3 times. This is pathological. It's problematic. I did not get married to get divorced. So this is a problem. I need to look at this, unpack it, and heal from some of this stuff so I don't keep repeating the same mistakes. So being uncomfortable or having a preference, and you do this thing, you're a smoker, and I don't want to be around someone who smokes. I don't like the smell of it. It's not that I'm triggered by your smoking. It's I don't want that in my experience. But being in a relationship that's violent, or where someone is emotionally neglectful, etc., I'm thinking that there's some pathology going on there, and I need to arrest that and look at it and figure out what's happening. And I also want to say that we are never fully done on this journey. We're never actualized and absolutely there. I mean, it's about having enough tools in your toolkit and stuff in your medicine cabinet so that you know when I am sick, when things are coming up for me that don't feel well, that don't feel good, where I'm not feeling whole, I know what to do. I know how to examine it. I know how to sit back and, as Dr. Carla said, that small, still voice, and that's talking to me to figure out what's going on here, what's up, and then deal with it. Have a language around it. Yeah.
Can I say something? I mean, that's great. So I want to piggyback on also when it comes on to that uncomfortable and a trigger, because if I can go here, when you've been sexually abused and you're married and someone touches you in a way that your abuser did, that is a trigger, right? So we know the difference from that trigger, where if you're uncomfortable because you're not really feeling somebody and they're touching you and you don't like it, that's just uncomfortable. But the trigger is when in your memory, you see that person's hands, or you smell, like you said, the smell or something. Those are the triggers. And so that's the difference between the emotional and the uncomfortable feeling.
Very interesting, very interesting. So I'm just sort of curious, right? All you guys that are on here, Facebook, you're on Zoom. Do you guys get it now? Why triggers is so important while you're dating? Are you getting that? And on that point, I want to go to start with you, Dr. Kelly. So let's say someone recognizes that they got some kind of trauma thing going on, and they know it's causing them to be unsuccessful. They're essentially on this emotional hamster wheel that's got them repeating the same stuff all the time, yet they keep doing it. Why is that?
I think we continue to do those things, one, because we have not decided to do the healing work that it takes to choose differently. We all want love. You talked about that at the beginning. That is a natural human thing. We are built for it. We are built for one another. We're built to be in connection, in community, in relationship. That part is natural to want it. And then what has happened is that imperfection has kicked in, and we trigger each other, we traumatize one another, and each one of us comes with our own sets of pain. And depending on how far we've journeyed into unpacking it, into healing from it, and into understanding how to bring my stuff into relationship with your stuff, and how do we sort that out and navigate, negotiate that. To the extent that we've done that work is going to be the extent to which we can get off of the emotional hamster wheel that you're describing and into a better way of choosing to be.
I just love that analogy, hamster wheel. I mean, you ever seen a hamster wheel? And that hamster will be on that wheel, run as fast as he or she can. Think he's going somewhere and just going in a circle. Dr. Carla Michelle, talk about that. Not the hamster itself, but the analogy.
You're going in the circle?
Yeah, exactly. You see it's not working, but you continue to do the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over again.
And they call that insanity, right?
Right, exactly.
So, I mean, you do feel like, honestly, you do feel a little wonky. I don't want to say the word crazy, but you do feel it out of sorts when you are just repeating yourself and not getting different results. That goes back to when I called dating research. I was at the point where I keep attracting the same type of dude, and it ain't them, it's me. It was me. And so doing the research, or dating, I'm sorry, I'll call it dating, but I think we need to really kind of research a little bit, because we want to find love. And so the first thing we do is we don't see them, because we want to just find love. And they were interested, and it was when online dating was, before COVID, but I heard it was still going through in COVID, but we're just
booming during COVID.
Yeah, you're just happy to have a date. And we got to get to where we're not desperate, but we're decisive, and not, I won't hurt anybody's feelings, but we may not think it's desperation, but in some form it is. But desperate or decisiveness. And I was going for decisiveness. And I encourage my clients to be more decisive in their dating, because if you're decisive, you go in with a strategy. and it can stop those things that kept you back because you're aware now. Literally, you can come home from a date and write down, what did I learn about myself? What did I say and how was I comfortable? I'm not even really thinking about the guy. Was I comfortable with him treating me like this, whatever that was? Did I want more of that? And next time, should I speak up? I mean, have a strategy about this dating so that you can understand yourself as you're understanding yourself when it comes to others. So that's the way you get off that rat wheel, hamster, whatever that thing is.
Yeah, something's going around in a circle, right? Dr. Kelly, so you want to say something, Dr. Kelly?
Yeah, I was just saying, Ian, that really resonated with him, and I was wondering if he wanted to share what he gave you the thumbs up and the high five, the little fist bump.
Ian, bring us off, man.
That resonated, Ian. I want to hear what you got to say.
Yeah, and then tell us a little bit about your relationship with Jennifer Hudson too, please.
Yeah, it's brand new. If you check her Twitter, she just announced it. We was trying to keep it, private, but
bro, you came up, bro.
You know how Jennifer can be. She like to get in the light, and and so I was like, all right, boo, you go ahead, let them know it's all right. All right, so we gonna stop it. They like, who is this fool? Where you come from? No, like my thumbs up and all that was just like, respect. I appreciate you acknowledging what I said. For me, the whole thing about trauma or a trigger, like that is associated with trauma. And I think that's like the most important thing to name here. Like it's not you saying like, oh, this is ugly, whatever. Like I didn't like that thing or that was a terrible movie. Like that's not a traumatic experience. That's just you didn't care for it. And so I think it's most important. I think it's most important to name that particular distinction. So that's all I'm saying. I was just agreeing. I was just appreciating what Dr. Carla said, that she agreed. So that's all.
Okay, well, thanks for providing a little bit more insight on that. So, okay, and I want to throw this to Dr. Carla, Michelle, and then Zanita, I want you to talk about it as well. We can probably make this leap or assumption, because there's mainly women here, that we're trying to help women figure out their triggers. Okay. So can men have triggers? Or is it just a woman thing? What is that? Is that just a woman thing, or can men have triggers? And if
Hell yeah. Oh, that wasn't me. You didn't ask.
Right. So talk about that a little bit from the clients, maybe your dating experience.
Yes. Some of those triggers that I said from my clients were actually from men, a lot of that. Yeah, that X stuff is a trigger,
Well, help these women recognize triggers that men may have, so they can kind of peep that out and see what's
the funny thing is, I think they have the same triggers. They just hide it better. They don't they don't talk, we speak it. Like, what's that? They just, how y'all, just, there you go.
Hey, you're the panelists. I'm just moderating. So I'm just,
but I think it's just a different way that it is dealt with. Some men are very verbal, some are just more observant. But they have their triggers, and then you see how the way they treat you, especially when you're dating. If you trigger them, you may not hear from them again, or they ghost you, or they spread you out, they ain't gonna see you that much. But that's the way they could be more passive aggressive with their triggers. And then you have some people who are, men are very verbal with their triggers. And like I said, it could be the X, the competition of what the old boy did,
right.
That could be a trigger. The connection, even though they don't say it, I think there is that, that, am I better than that? And that could be a trigger if they don't feel that way, if they don't feel that they can trust you, lack of trust and vulnerability. And this was out of this man's mouth. I don't believe what comes out of her mouth, nor do I think because of stuff that shows me she's not all the way in.
Right.
That's a trigger. So it's the same. I just think we show up differently with it.
Amen.
Okay. Dr. Kelly.
I was just amen to what Carla said. It's just so true. And yes, of course, it's trauma is a human experience, and we are not immune to it, but because of our gender. So yes, men experience trauma, therefore they can be triggered. And it is exactly what Carla said. It's their nature and how they express those triggers and how it shows up for them. And it's something that Ian had mentioned about being raised, especially in the Black community, about what those strict roles are and what you can and cannot do and what's manly and masculine, what isn't. And so talking about your pain, expressing it and showing anything other than anger, it was just unacceptable at one time. And just imagine, you know, the Ian who described the 4-year-old who was told not to cry because that's not manly enough and getting punished for it. And then growing up and being vulnerable enough to cry in front of your wife who's triggered by your adult weakness. I mean, that is a recipe for a divorce. Is a recipe for a disaster. And I perpetuated that. I played a role in that, which is why I'm here to shout from the rooftops for us to understand ourselves, to unpack our pain. It's not our fault, and there should be no shame in the fact that we've had some traumatic experiences, but it is our responsibility to heal from it and to get what we need in order to be functioning, healthy, happy, whole adults.
Yeah, look, you know what a trigger is for a lot of men? So, you know, we're very fortunate, blessed here on these dating streets. We got these two absolutely stunning, beautiful women who are super intelligent and breaking us off with all kinds of insight and knowledge. But they're fine too at the same time. It's a beautiful thing, right? Here's what a trigger is for men. Fine women. We assume y'all gold diggers, that, you know, y'all gonna turn your nose up at us, that y'all ain't been through nothing, that we won't be able to size up. And a lot of this comes from our own little experience, maybe what we see on TV or whatever the case may be and so forth. So that's something to think about too. Darla, what's it you saying? Is there such a thing of being too vulnerable? Interesting. Dr. Carla Michelle, is there such a thing being too vulnerable?
I was gonna say that earlier. Thank you, Darla, because I think, you know, there's a scripture that says, "Don't cast your pearls before swine," right? And it's really having some healthy insight of who is worthy of your vulnerability.
Mm. Yeah.
And you know, that's that discernment that has to come. Who is worthy and the timing of it. And I don't mean like a year later you're vulnerable. I mean the timing of it. If this is something fresh and new, you're definitely not to be like, this is me and here's my triggers. You know, it has to be something where you know you're in something. Yeah. Not still finding something, but you're in something that vulnerability can have its way. Now there's different levels of vulnerability. I will say that. You know, vulnerability, what makes you happy, what makes you, you know, what makes you in the dating, be that type of vulnerable. But when you go and you're talking future with someone, then that I think is the safer place to really discuss who you are.
You know, Carla, that reminds me of something that Iyanla Vanzant would say, that everybody doesn't deserve to hear your story, because that story is precious. And you don't know how they're going to handle it when you first meet them. So yeah, I agree. Too vulnerable, too soon can really create some pain for you. People have to earn the trust and the right to know who you are, because you're precious.
You know, one of the things we want to take advantage of. So, you know, we've read you guys' credentials early on, and one of the things, Dr. Zanita Kelly, you know, she works in education. And I like to, I mean, she really has her hands on the pulse of diversity, equity, and inclusion, like on steroids, like as it's happening. And so it was interesting when I was sort of talking to trying to get them to come on to the program tonight. She had a very interesting perspective regarding triggers as it pertained to young girls growing up and what she kind of encounters on some more frequent basis. So I want Dr. Kelly, can you kind of talk a little bit about that, which may give some insight to this whole trigger thing, and maybe it's kind of going to an extreme, but these other dynamics in our society regarding triggers that are quite interesting. Please.
Yeah, I work in an all-girls school. So I work with students between the ages of 8 or 9, all the way up to 18, because we have multi divisions in the school. And one of the things I'm noticing with the middle school set, young adults and burgeoning adults, is that they're asking for trigger warnings. So any content in the setting of a classroom,
they're asking for trigger warnings.
They're asking that we put a warning or yes, on any subject that might be upsetting, any subject that may be upsetting. So they are not triggered. So if we're talking about slavery, if we're talking about the Holocaust, if we're talking about a rape in literature or something of that nature, Romeo and Juliet even, it could be potentially triggering. So what some students are suggesting is that we offer warnings when we're going to talk about tough material so that they can opt out and have something alternative to do, so that they're not being upset. And so I say that it's not just this particular group of students. I think this is something that's pretty pervasive now in universities and other places where these trigger warnings are being offered so people don't experience upset. I'm seeing in states like Florida, they're creating the safe spaces for children who could be upset by discussions of race. Or hearing about
critical race theory.
Right, critical race theory or white privilege might be upsetting, so you can't upset anyone. And so I offer that what we want to do is to build the children's fortitude and do some context setting and help them understand the context of some tough conversations. But we need to be able to engage. I think that's part of the problem in our society right now, is that we can't engage in civil dialogue where emotions can erupt. We can't hear each other as we present these opposing points of view, or as we present things that are uncomfortable, could cause emotional upset. And sure, with children, because they are the most vulnerable, and you're talking about vulnerability, and children are a protected class, we have to be careful with them. But being careful with someone is not having them avoid anything that might create or cause anxiety. You're going to exacerbate that anxiety by avoiding anything that is or stretches them, or as my friend Ian says, pushes their intellectual edge and challenges them to grow, because that is uncomfortable. If you're doing it right, there is a little discomfort in there. And I just find that interesting that this is something that our kids are trying to avoid at all costs. And what we need to do is build the fortitude and help them get through it. Like, I'm going to walk you through this. It's going to be uncomfortable, but you're not unsafe, in the sense that people here are committed to your emotional and your physical safety. So as we talk about something that might be upsetting, we're going to navigate this space in a way that you can hear it and receive the education, but do it in a way that is safe. And so, yeah, that's this, because triggers are real in the sense that you do get this physical, like we talked about, physical, visceral reaction as if you're reliving it. But you should be able to function in a classroom without having a meltdown.
Wow. Yeah, I'm curious, Dr. Carla Michelle. So, obviously, her audience is, young women and so forth. I assume you have some younger clients as well, or you can sort of speak to some of this as well. What are you seeing in terms of your coaching, and when you're sort of meeting with some of your clients? Are you seeing some of this interesting behavior as well among the younger women or younger men as well?
I have to say no. I have not seen that. I think it's really stronger, it seems like, in schools and the type of schools, if I can say that, Zanita. So it's a little different. If you want to speak to that, Zanita, do you agree? I think
yeah, absolutely. Because if you are growing up with a lack of resources, and you might be a part of a cycle of poverty, you are not going to be able to avoid your triggers. You're not going to be able to avoid the trauma, because poverty is traumatic. If you are a person of color and you're growing up in this country, you're not going to be able to avoid some forms of oppression and microaggressions, which cause further trauma that come back. So there's no protection from the difficult things. There's no protection, or nobody even talking about shielding you from having an uncomfortable experience. So there's that. So if you are able to afford an experience where you're in a private or a parochial institution and people are having this care and concern for your mental and emotional well-being, that's a privilege where you get afforded these conversations and people being thoughtful about how material is being presented to you.
So it's a higher tax bracket phenomenon.
It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be, because this is how all of our children deserve to be treated: thoughtfully, respectfully, and no shade to schools that are overcrowded and underfunded and under-resourced, where they don't have time. They're just trying to teach children to, pass this exam or et cetera. Because I've been in all those settings before. I've been public, I've been in charter, and I've been in the private sector. So I understand the challenges in all three. But children do deserve a thoughtful presence of adults who are going to be thinking about how they experience, the curriculum, both curriculums, the curriculum that's out there and that's obvious, and then that subtext of curriculum that happens in an institution.
Yeah, that's great. I think we've done a great job identifying what triggers are, defining what a trigger is, giving examples and other human experiences and other things, what triggers create and so forth. So we recognize this is something that we need to be mindful of, particularly in the dating scene. So now let's focus our conversation as the evening gets a little bit late and we get ready to wrap up things. Let's talk about, how do we heal from emotional triggers? Dr. Carmichael, you want to take a first stab at that?
Yeah, how do we heal? Well, one, I think we've said it a few times, is you got to do that self-work. What
does that mean, self-work? What does that mean? You got to work out more? What does it mean?
Work out more, yeah. Well, there's a couple of ways. You can do working on yourself, whether it's face-to-face with a therapist or a coach like myself, or it's actually reading a book. There's workshops, there's so much out there, to have. There's situations like this that, the goal is to help enlighten everyone to what is happening in the dating situation when it comes to triggers. There is so many ways, but the first thing is that you got to make the decision that you want to change, and you want to have things different than they have been. And then when it comes to that healing, knowing that you're carrying around loads and history and years with you into they used to scare us in school about when you have sex, you carry whoever you had sex with all the way. And it's like, those triggers.
You had sex with 100,000 people. You're a hoe.
Yeah, well, then you're a trigger hoe. You got these things that are just carrying and taking on to the next or to the next day. And it's not even about somebody else. It's about you, and you're building, like I did with the pillows, you're building this barrier of protection, but it's really not protection, it's jail, and you're not living. So it's knowing that ripping away, even as out of control it feels to let a trigger go, it's the best thing that you can do for you, and then for love.
Interesting. Dr. Zanita Kelly. How do we get over this trigger thing? Talk to us.
Well, it really is essentially exactly what Carla was saying. And part of that, it's healing, it's finding the resources that you need. They are readily available. They can come in the form of, if I don't either have access to health insurance and healthcare, I can still get what I need through the internet. It's a beautiful thing. I can find books, I can find recommendations. They even have apps now for some counseling services. And I don't know to the quality of the service that you're going to get, but somebody to talk to. Finding groups that you can join, like support groups and those kinds of things. I always say, find your gurus, the people that they'll be out there on podcasts, they'll be out there on YouTube. And this conversation is ongoing. We're not the only ones having these conversations around healing and around your journey to kind of get to know who you are and unpack this stuff so that you can live a more fulfilled, a more whole life. And then there's the actual therapy. Even if you don't have solid medical insurance, there are places like the Fuller Seminary Institute that will do evaluations on a sliding scale fee. So you can call it up. You might have to wait a little bit. I wouldn't try to call when I'm in crisis, because you'll get a student, and that student is supervised by a licensed therapist to do the evaluation for you. So there are services out there that we can avail ourselves to so that we can start to heal, because it's important. And you need to put the effort and the energy in it as if you would do anything else, so that we can be out here in these dangerous streets and be healthy and happy with it.
Wait a minute now. Wait, hold on for a minute. Okay, let's just keep it 100 right here, right? Okay. So you guys talking about this therapy, this long, laborious efforts, try to get the healing. And some folks trying to date, some folks trying to get it in, some folks got their biological clock is ticking, and so forth. What would you say to them? Zanita.
Put the time in now, or you're going to put the time in later? You're going to pay, period. You're going to pay.
You'll pay one way or another. Huh?
But you're going to pay one way or another. And it is so much better if you go ahead and do it now, before the relationship or before the children and all that kind of stuff. Because you have children in a bad situation, you're getting ready to drag them through the trauma too. So it is much healthier, it's much kinder, it's a better situation if you put the effort and time in now, to build the relationship with self first, and then be a whole human and go out there to find someone else to share all that goodness with.
Gotcha. So Dr. Carla Michelle, what do you think about that? Biological clock is ticking though. Biological clock is ticking.
Well, then that means that, we just work more focused on getting healed. But I would say, don't let that clock run you. Don't let it, because it's whatever it is. And
you're just tired. You're just tired of being alone. You just want to get out there. Dude, showing you attention, but you got some stuff. What you do?
Well, you're tired of being alone. You don't have to be alone. It's just, you can find anybody. It's just the quality that you should be looking for. And who am I to judge if you just want to focus on not being alone? Enjoy. But it could be better. It could be better than just settling for something. And I want to say this, and no jokes aside, no smiling, no joking. That is a very true what you're saying with that, because that does take us somewhere that's very uncomfortable, especially as the clock is ticking, and not just having a baby clock, but just you're maturing more and more each year, and you find yourself going to bed alone every night, and you start wondering, is this my life? If something happens to me, who's around? So it's very real. So I don't want to play with that, because that's very serious. I will say that you're not doing the work to get that somebody there when you're old. You're doing the work so that you can sustain yourself when you are with somebody, because even in a relationship, it's not perfect. Things are going to happen, but you want to go in as whole as you can, as Zanita was saying. I'm going to go back. A potential client, we didn't work with each other, but they're in their 60s and their 70s. And it was the same things that we do in our 20s and 30s and 40s and 50s. So when are we going to do what we need, what works, whatever works for you in the sense of healing, doing what it works, and find your way.
Interesting. You know, there's this book, I forgot what the author's name was, and we're talking about the importance of healing. And the title of the book was, it was about men. The name of the book was Men, We Don't Heal, We Hold. That's the name of the book. Men, We Don't Heal, We Hold. And I gotta tell you that has got to been the go-to form for men to deal with a breakup, heartache, whatever disappointment be, to go out and smash a bunch of women, have a bunch of sex, as if that is therapeutic or something like that. So Dr. Carla Michelle, what would you say to men that uses sex as a panacea?
Oh, well, you know what? The thing is, they come to find out from what's been shared to me that they wasted a lot of years, sticking the oil dip in the oil can and not getting the engine really, not getting the whole car, but I don't know what kind of analogy that was, but
I don't know that was either.
But no,
is that dark?
Yeah, it's but one thing they have to realize, if you are hoeing, I mean, you're socialized by that, TV, movies, songs, everything socializes. Hey, if you can't love the one you want, go love the one you with, or something. We're socialized not to connect and to use our, body parts to find some kind of wholeness, which we end up even more emptier. So if the guys listen out there, you're doing a disservice to your future. How many men end up alone because your the playboy ways fade, and you have no one there who really, all that game you had is old now, and and women too. But it's really sad that that's how you want to end your life when you've had all those years to really have something of substance. So, put it away if you can, and get to know somebody out there for who they are, and let them know you for who you are. Because, guys really believe if they knock your socks off, you hook forever. And sadly, that's not always true.
Yeah.
And women believe that their vagina's magic too. So, sometimes we think, oh, I'm going to heal him. I'm going to heal him.
He's healed. Look, see, I told you. He's coming back.
Right. But, the pleasure centers light up and we can get hooked in the same way that we can get hooked on a drug or any other substance that just creates that numbing sensation, and it's just about pleasure and just getting away from the pain, which is why we need to explore those things that are causing us pain, so that we aren't out there making these choices rooted in our trauma, using that lens that Ian talked about earlier. So
we're going to ask you guys one more question, and then we're going to wrap it up. And I see Stephanie Farmer, who's the CFO for Keeping 100, is on the line. And we got something pretty dope going on next week called Swag, and we want Stephanie to talk a little bit about that. But last question of the evening: can anyone be totally healed from their emotional trigger? Explain. Start with you, Dr. Kelly. Can you be totally healed from a trigger?
I think that we can be completely and totally aware of what our triggers are and understand. Aware. Have this level of awareness. And I think that is powerful, because when it comes up, when we start to feel whatever it is that we're feeling, then we can examine it and understand what this is. And we don't have to respond to it. And we don't have to react and act out of I'm holding it right here in my hand, because this is the trigger, this is the moment, this is the behavior. And I'm like, what's coming up for me? Because I literally have had conversations with myself and say, oh, I'm feeling all of this. I don't like this feeling. Let me think about this. Let me take a moment and not engage, but figure out what's going on with me right now. So people shouldn't get in my mind, into the habit of feeling like I am going to be completely healed. Nothing's going to bother me. I'm going to float around. I'm not walking. I'm going to float around, because I am so spiritually attuned with myself, and now I'm buzzing. we're going to have ups and downs. We are all vulnerable to life's vicissitudes, and having the skills and the tools that we need in order to move through them and to navigate them is the part that we need to get.
Ah, nice. Dr. Carla Michelle.
I don't even really have anything to add, because she really touched on, will we ever be healed? It is a journey. It truly is. And I think we do ourselves a disservice if we think that it's a one time and we're good. I think it's an everyday, like she was just being aware. Awareness is the key. Awareness is the key. It is really aware. And then having a strategy. When you are aware, what do you do? I mean, I'm just really repeating what Zanita is saying, just using different words, but have strategize. How do you come out of that when something is going on? And then remember, it's speaking to something that doesn't feel valued in you. And really the only person who could really value as to the highest level as possible is yourself. So that really means if you're triggered and they're doing it, it's whose responsibility is it really? It is yours to find out, why do I feel less valued? Why do I not feel seen? Why do I not feel heard? Why do I not feel important? No one can fulfill that if you don't fulfill it first.
And why am I sitting here if I'm feeling all that?
Right.
Right. And then you're used to being somewhat emotional. People don't even realize they're being emotionally abused in relationships. They may not hit you, but they'll hit you with some actions or words, or and you'll sit there and take it. But you have to be aware of what's happening.
Yeah, I love that. And Angela Mo, I love what you just said as well. That's a pretty dope stuff in the chat. So we're gonna get ready to wrap up here. Stephanie Farmer, how you doing? CFO.
Hey, doing good. Good evening to all. I'm sorry I wasn't able to join right at the beginning of this, but what I was able to hear, wow, is really good. And I've got some good takeaways here. Because, I really like the whole fact that, when people think that they got it going on, like the men, I think Dr. Carla Michelle said it best, there is a such thing as the old man at the club,
And the cat daddy. Hey,
yeah, the cat daddy. And then Dr. Zanita Kelly, with her comment about women thinking that they've got it going on, because all of us aren't going to be sunshine forever. So.
Oh, that is hilarious. What did Drake say? He said, my daddy got on that purple suit and purple shoes. Boy, if you don't stop. How many times have you seen that before? That's crazy. But Stephanie, please tell them what's happening next Wednesday, 8:00 p.m. Pacific
All right.
Standard Time.
Okay, so keeping it 100, we are going to have our second virtual event led by SWAG, which is single women and gents. That's the terminology we come up with for SWAG, the acronym. Yes, thank you. And so we talked about last month, dating and money. And then to this month, next week on Wednesday, same time and so forth, we're, as tonight, 8:00 p.m. PST, we're going to talk about friends and benefits, or friends with benefits.
Friends with benefits.
So, and taking that apart and putting it back together and all that good stuff. So I think that it's going to be a very entertaining discussion. It'll be myself as well as members of the Keeping It 100 team, and it will be moderated by Carrie Neal.
Right. And so thank you for that. So it should be very interesting, because we have a very interesting group that make up the SWAG panel. And we're looking for experts in terms of their credentials, but the credentials of life, and they answer the question and get a perspective through those lenses. And the next on these dating streets, they don't even know it just yet, but we're gonna be talking about cheating. And so Dr. Carla Michelle and Dr. Zanita Kelly will be tackling that, and that information will be coming to you in the coming weeks. They're like, oh Lord, here.
I'm triggered.
Warren does know.
Right. We talking about these day streets, we out here. So this is what this is about. But anyway, any last thoughts? Anybody want to say anything and so forth? Vanessa, LaQuetta, Jennifer, Angela, Darla.
Oh, my friend Ian is here. Can he sing us out? He should sing something. Yeah, come on.
He left. I think he left.
Yeah, come on, Ian. What you gonna sing for us? Give me a little Nina Simone. Feeling good. Come on.
Yeah. Hook us up.
Okay. I'm in my Hakuna Matata shirt. Do I have to show my face?
No, you don't have to show your face.
Just sing, bro. Just sing.
No, I don't.
Okay, all right, go ahead.
We doing, you want feeling good?
Feeling good.
Okay, y'all can hear me?
We can hear. Can y'all hear him?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Birds flying high, you know how I feel. Sun in the sky, you know how I feel. Breeze drifting on by, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me. Ooh, and I'm feeling good.
Woo! That's what's up.
You see, now you know why he's friends with Jennifer Hudson. That's all I'm saying. Now you know what that's about. I just wanted to bring it full circle.
Exactly. Yeah, they're two pieces of pie. That's what's up.
All right.
Well, anyway, everybody, we just appreciate you joining us. We're gonna keep it coming hard because we know you're out there trying to find love, trying to dodge the pain and so forth, trying to find what's legit and so forth. You know something? We're gonna bring it to you on one of these platforms, whether it be Black Global Unit, These Dating Streets, or Keep It 100. We coming for you. So again, we thank you guys for joining us.
Thank you, everyone.
Next time, we'll see you. Okay.
All right.
Have a good evening.